Hello there. Here we are with issue 32, the bonus issue. So we're going to talk about this Punwarka class sloop. But first, let's go ahead and check out the details and the data for this issue. And then when we come back, we'll get started on this. Okay, here we are, everybody, and this was the details and the data on issue 32. So we had one video this time. We worked on the hull and some exterior details. Total time for this issue took 3 hours and 27 minutes. We had 7 captures. A total video time that we recorded was 57 minutes and 23 seconds. So that leaves about exactly 2.5 hours that was completely off camera. And almost all of those 2.5 hours was from doing research on finding out what the paint was supposed to look like. We had a final video time of 34 minutes. So we were able to knock off, about 20 minutes or so. And here's the paints that we used. We used primer, some insignia white, and the RAL gray. Okay. Here's our video with 34 minutes. Our total time, and here's our captures. So 8, 1.5, 2, 8, 4.5, 5, and 27 minutes. And if we scroll over here, you can see that we had 2.5 hours of off-camera time. And like I said, that was pretty much all looking at the pictures and whatnot. So here we go. We have a total of 49 build videos now with 147 video captures. Our total time is up to 25 hours and 32 minutes for video time. Total build time is 81 hours and 38 minutes. So it's creeping up quite a bit. And average time has gone up about 5 minutes thanks to a 34-minute video this time. And we didn't do any gluing or put any screws in, so those counts did not go up. All right, so let's go back and take a look and see what's in this issue. Okay, and we're back. So hopefully you guys are still enjoying those details and the data on that. Trying to be a bit more concise and get the facts out there for you guys, but hopefully you're still enjoying that. All right, so here we are with the Punwarka 116 class sloop modified. So this was Count Dooku's Solar Sailor. So Count Dooku Solar Sailor was a gift from the Geonosian colleagues and was a unique melding of the Punwarka 116 class sloop with an elegant sail designed or supplied by Dooku himself. So basically, the kind of super interesting part of this is the solar sail. So, basically, the important part here is that the Geonosian starships typically feature 2 or more multi-functional prongs. Along these projections, rows of narrow tractor repulsor beams emitters act like steering aids when there is any surrounding matter to pull and push against. They also double as offensive grappling, while the spread of ray shield engines around the prongs of the starship can be individually selected to aid the ship's maneuverability. So that was pretty interesting. So it's got the spherical cockpit type thing. One of the things about Dooku is he preferred to have a robot fly him, and that allowed him to do his other evil type things. So the really interesting thing about this is the sail in and of itself. So Dooku was a very learned man, and before leaving the Jedi Order, he spent much of his time in the temple studying in their vast library. The Count became aware of the Geonosians' ancient sailing traditions and asked Poggle the Lesser, Archduke of Geonosis, for help to use their traditional technology to meld a Pornwarka 116 class sloop with an elegant sail. Poggle was more than happy to accommodate an esteemed ally, went out of his way to ensure the project worked as Dooku wanted. After leaving the Jedi Order, Dooku had developed a taste for rare Republic artifacts and antiques, so the sail used in the Solar Sailor was sold to him by an antiques dealer near the Gree Enclave. It demonstrated unique and startling properties that baffled the Geonosian engineers, generating power from an unknown, undetectable energy field. Whatever its mysterious power source, the sail gave Dooku's custom ship an independence and style unknown in any other spacefaring vehicle anywhere in the galaxy. Count Dooku was meticulous in the design of the interior of the Solar Sailor and had many antiques on board, including his own data library. A retracting ramp led to an airlock at the rear of the Solar Sailor, providing access to her owner's personal quarters. So yeah, so the sail of its in and of itself was a really important aspect of it. So um, so it talks a little bit about here where it says the unique sail provided by Dooku himself was able to achieve an impressive performance despite its comparatively small span and had no obvious support system. The unexplained mobility of his Solar Sailor meant that the Count commanded additional mystique and respect in the eyes of the Geonosians. So that was pretty cool. Uh, the 116 class sloop is an interstellar solar sailor designed by the Hubla Pasa, the shipwrights collective of Geonosis. Sorry. The seed-shaped body of the vessel resembled the smaller Geonosian starfighter, but the sloop had room inside for 2 pilots, cargo space, and a bunk. Although the solar-powered sloop was unarmed, its upper and lower forward prongs featured 84 small tractor beam projectors that acted both as steering aids and as emergency grappling weapons. So that's kind of cool. Design change. During the making, and this is our behind the scenes here, during the making of Attack of the Clones, the art department based in Sydney, Australia, switched to using digital technology after it became clear that computer aided design, or CAD, software had advanced to the point where it offered solutions to some problems raised by the design process. Obi-Wan's Jedi starfighter was one of the last things to be drawn by hand. The Solar Sailor was the next job for the artist, so it was developed as a digital drawing by Jacinta Leong, one of Australia's top draftswomen. A full-size mock-up of Dooku's ship was part of the set built on Stage 6 at Fox Studios and filmed in August 2000. Rather remarkably, the ship was altered in post-production after it was realized that it looked as if Dooku would have needed to crawl through its impossibly narrow space to get to the cockpit after boarding from the rear. The Solar Sailor was digitally retouched to make the cockpit bubble join onto the main part of the hull. So there you go. And of course we know how the escape went, so there you go. The history of Mandalore. So anybody that is watching the Mandalorian show, if you're not up on the history of Mandalore, this will be very, very interesting for you. So this goes out specifically to Judah because she has lots of questions about Mandalore. So hopefully this answers a lot of your questions, Judah. Plagued by turbulent history, Mandalore is an outer rim planet with a fiercely independent people that was divided by recent conflicts and the Clone Wars. Though Mandalore's surface will probably never recover from the wars of the past, its people will always be proud to be Mandalorians. Mandalore is the 5th planet in the orbiting sun and has 2 moons. The planetary surface was once lush with jungles and seas, but has turned into a lifeless desert by the countless conflicts, including an ancient war against the Jedi. In order to survive under these unbearable conditions, the Mandalorians began to build domed cities such as the capital city of Sundari, located in the center of the endless desert of white sand. A gigantic biodome covers the modern cube-like city, which has buildings and structures made of permacrete and transparasteel. Mandalorians who had renounced the old ways created the new settlement in a time of peace, and now automated repulsor lift transports carry people into the heart of the city, where they can see important sites such as the Royal Palace and Royal Academy of Government and the Memorial Shrine. Mandalore is also home to the Mandal Motors, a large corporation that produces specifically Mandalorian spaceships, repulsor lift vehicles, and weapons and equipment. While the human population was able to survive because of technology, the wildlife of Mandalore suffered. A few species managed to survive by adapting to the changing conditions, and rare examples of others lived on in capacity. Oh, in captivity. Excuse me. One lost species that had a significant influence on Mandalorian traditions was the shriekhawk, an avian predator also known as the Jaguar. The long extinct mythosaur was a creature of gigantic proportions, those whose memory still lives on today in the mythosaur skull emblem supported by many Mandalorians. The warlike Mandalorians are the stuff of legend, used to scare children. Wearing their distinctive armor, they fought against the Jedi in the Old Republic, and were once part of a raid on the Jedi Temple. Despite the fact that Mandalorians were able to expand their influence and territory considerably throughout the regions surrounding Mandalore and beyond, different factions made Mandalorian politics complicated and highly unpredictable. Traditionalist reformers and invaders all ruled and profited from the civil wars that have raged on the planet. So we'll talk about Death Watch before we move on here. Death Watch, which used the symbol of the Jaguar as a faction that longed to the return of Mandalore's warrior past, when Duke Adonai I Kryze was killed during the great clan wars that raged on Mandalore. Death Watch leader Pre Vizsla considered the Duke's pacifist daughter, Duchess Satine, unworthy to lead the Mandalorians, and planned an alliance with Count Dooku. However, this went sour after a planned Republic invasion didn't occur. Driven by revenge and honor, Vizsla led Death Watch overworld until Darth Maul and his Shadow Collective helped them to defeat the Duchess's new Mandalorians. However, Vizsla's victorious return to Mandalore was short-lived, as Maul killed him to become the new leader of Death Watch. So that's pre-Vizsla there. And if you look right here, you can make out the Darksaber. So the Darksaber is what is kind of passed on as almost like a symbol of leadership in the Mandalorian culture. So that's pretty cool. The new Mandalorians. After the Great Clan Wars, which took place a decade before the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians were ruled by Duchess Satine Kryze of Kalevala. I can never pronounce these things. And her new Mandalorians, who broke away from the violent past and ruled Mandalore through peace and diplomacy. As leader of the Council of Neutral Systems, the Duchess represented over 1,500 systems that strove to stay neutral during the Clone Wars. Satine ruled with the assistance of Prime Minister and ruling council of at least 6 ministers. Among them, a Minister of Finance, Minister of Interior. Other functions in the government were those of the governor and deputy ministers. New Mandalorians struggled to minimize the influence of the group known as Death Watch, who longed to return Mandalore to its warrior roots. With the support of the Confederacy secretly leading Death Watch was Governor Pre Vizsla of Concordia, one of Satine's trusted allies. Also on Death Watch's payroll was Prince Tal Merrick, the Senator of Kalevala, one of Duchess's oldest friends. After being betrayed by her allies, Satine barely succeeded in avoiding a Republic intervention on Mandalore by uncovering a recording that showed the Republic Senate a forged message from the loyal Deputy Minister Jarek. Had the invasion taken place, Death Watch stood ready to act as the liberators of Mandalorian people who would undoubtedly have chosen their side against the Republic. The government of the new Mandalorians remained fragile due to corruption among the political upper class and because of Pre Vizsla, the leader of Death Watch, was constantly plotting against Duchess Satine. Toward the end of the Clone Wars, with the help of the Shadow Collective crime syndicate, Death Watch finally managed to depose the new Mandalorians, and they once again gained support of the Mandalorian people. Not all members of Death Watch remained loyal after Pre Vizsla was slain by Darth Maul, the leader of the Shadow Collective. Bo-Katan Kryze, the Night Owls left Death Watch as another splinter group after the deaths of Vizsla and Satine Kryze. In the end, not even Death Watch could protect Mandalore from succumbing to the Galactic Empire, which installed a military academy on the planet. Talk about symbolism. The Mandalorian suits of armor and helmets with their characteristic T-shaped visor are the most widely recognized elements from the Mandalorian warrior culture. They have been worn by Death Watch, the Mandalorian Super Commandos, and also by bounty hunters such as Jango and Boba Fett. Peaceful symbols could be encountered on Mandalore as well. During the reign of the new Mandalorians, the citizens of Sundari all wore similar modern clothing ranging from white to pale blue. Sundari's bright architecture is very cubist, and this style also extends to the paintings and government buildings depicting historical events and political leaders. Another symbol, the omnipresent among Mandalorians, is the Karta, a hexagonal shape integrated in a Mandalorian clothes design and architecture. So that's kind of this shape here, if you can tell that. So, yeah. And this here is Prime Minister Almec. And so he ended up kind of becoming a puppet to Darth Maul as well. The name Mandalore first appeared in mention uh, on the Boba Fett concept art drawn by Joe Johnston for The Empire Strikes Back, which referred to him as being a super commando from the Mandalore system. The name Mandalore was kept alive and appeared for the first time in the Star Wars 68 Search Begins, a Marvel comic from 1983, where Leia is searching for Han Solo frozen in carbonite. Many aspects of the planet and its culture were created after a connection had been established between the clone troopers and the Mandalorians. Author Karen Travis once even worked on turning Mandoa into a working language. Star Wars The Clone Wars chose a new direction for Mandalorian society, but also kept some elements from the former stories, such as Death Watch. A lot of prequel concept art was reused for the Mandalorian designs, such as concept art that had originally been intended for Amidala, Satine, and Sith Mandalorian Royal Guards. So, so Satine ended up getting a lot of the looks, and this is Satine here. She's got a lot of the looks that Amidala would have had when they got into the show. In this, there was supposedly going to be some Sith troopers or Sith guard or whatever, and that became the Mandalorian Royal Guard. So there you go. There's a little bit of background on Mandalore and the Mandalorians. And for the record, Boba Fett is not actually a Mandalorian, and I don't believe Jango Fett was actually a Mandalorian either. Where he got the armor, I'm not exactly sure, but I had reached out to um, uh, Pablo Hidalgo, the writer of the book that I was reading snippets from, and he had indicated that yes, he's got Mandalorian armor, but he's not really Mandalorian. But it's kind of a loose subject there, so there you go. Uh, Sublight drives. Before the invention of hyperdrive, sublight engines were the only starship propulsion system available, limiting spacefarers to travel between planets in the same system. Nowadays, they are still vital for local operations in real space and for travel to and from hyperspace coordinates. So this is fairly straightforward. So one of the things it talks about is some rockets and stuff. So uh, the sublight systems is all they need for like the TIE Fighter and the T-16 Skyhopper. They don't have hyperdrive, so that's all they need is sublight. Although they operate below the speed of light, sublight drives can still propel starships at substantial velocity. The TIE Fighter used a pair of the most common form, the ion engine. That's where it gets its name, twin ion for that's TIE Fighter or TIE. Uh, it can achieve maximum speed of 1,200 kilometers per hour. Um, so yeah, for the Falcon, its standard is the Gyrodyne SRB-42 sublight engines, giving a maximum speed of 800 kilometers per hour. Of course, we know that it's been modified and it can achieve speeds of 1,050 kilometers per hour. And so the way that it works is uh, it's a fusion reactor that charges fuel particles and loads them into reactant injector. This shoots the charged particles through a gas exhaust pre-stabilizer screen and then projects them out of the starship's exhaust manifold at ultra high speed. This action, which happens in a fraction of a second, creates a thrust that propels the ship across the parsecs of space. So there you go. Very, uh, it's a very reminiscent of, say, what a rocket does. It's basically still heating up particles and shooting it out the back, creating thrust, but it's a heck of a lot more efficient. And also, you don't go through the fuel as quickly as you would, say, a rocket. So, behind the scenes here, just as in Star Wars universe, until the hyperdrive equivalent is invented, real world starships, or excuse me, they call them spaceships here. Imagine that. Real world spaceships are confined to sublight speeds, and the rocket motor of the early 21st century are the earthly counterparts of sublight engines. Engines based on technologies such as the liquid hydrogen designs that powered the Apollo spacecraft, which flew astronauts to the moon at 40,250 kilometers per hour. That's freaking fast. Can never take us to the stars. At that speed, as the 1979 Star Wars Questions and Answer book about space revealed, a trip to the closest star would take thousands of years at that speed. Even with the technical advances that have taken place since then, the best rocket motors are still far too slow. When the Atlas B-551 powered mission to Pluto lifted off in 2006, the vehicle's RD-180 main engine and the five solid rocket boosters provided more than 900 tons of thrust, enabling the New Horizons space probe to accelerate out of Earth's orbit some 45 minutes later at a speed of around 58,000 kilometers per hour. Although that might seem impressive compared to the speeds of Star Wars ships, which use their engines more like high-performance aircraft do on Earth, the rockets expended all their energy in one sustained acceleration, and the mission still did not near Pluto until early 2015, 9.5 years later. So, yeah. So that's, I mean, it's just really more of the same. And this talks about how it's heavily modified. Uh, so basically, her sublight engines were heavily modified with the sole purpose of getting more power and speed out of them. It's not certain who modified the Falcon's Gyrodyne engines, but some unknown technician added a Sublight accelerator motor, or SLAM. This system puts the Starship in overdrive by drawing power from unused shipboard systems to give her additional speed. Han Solo and Chewbacca were forced to use all the power they could muster to dodge Tatooine's blockade of the Imperial Star Destroyer and the TIE Fighter screen. Were it not for the speed of her modified Sublight engines, the Millennium Falcon might never have gotten the Death Star plans to the Rebel Alliance. There you go. Engines were stretched to the limits, blah, blah, blah. It's talking about all the places that it was being used. And so this is what the engines actually look like. And here is the parts that we're working on. And this is the actuator here. And this is the thrust vector plates there. So the actuators will push the thrust vector plates up and down and all that kind of stuff, and allows it to help it turn and move and whatnot. So there you go. That is the end of issue 32. And next time we'll be talking about issue 33, and we'll have 5 of them. This one will be very important because not only do we have 5, you can see we have one that's shorter. So we will get started on that next time. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this, and if you have questions or something that you would like for me to expand on with any of this stuff, please let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to do any of that. And I think that'll be it for this time. So may the Force be with you always.